Welcome to another episode of Tdub's Film Room, brought to you by thebarnauburn.com. Thebarnauburn.com is a great site, great community, great information, and I'm going to be providing exclusive content, so think film breakdowns, X's and O's, that you can only find on thebarnauburn.com. Right now, there's $25 off annual membership for 2025. I would recommend taking full advantage of that, but today's video is all about the defensive side of the ball. We're going to have a 1 through 10 wish list for the best defensive prospects in 2026 that could come make an impact at Auburn, starting with a guy who I see as the number one prospect for Auburn, but also he's an in-state kid. All right, my number one player, Anthony Tank Jones out of the state of Alabama, number one player in the state of Alabama, 5-star. He's 6'4", 230, edge, buck, outside linebacker. He's a great proportional build, that blend of length and strength. Very good against the run. You can see the violent hands there. Very good pass rusher as well. He might lack a little bit of that elite twitch, so think like a D Ford, Carl Lawson, that elite get off. However, the blend of pass rush ability with his strength against the run as well make him, to me, the number one player on Auburn's defensive wish list board for 2026. My comp for him is Quay Russaw. All right, so for Alabama, or for Auburn people, we know the Alabama player there, former 5-star. I remember the decleater he gave our offensive guard in the Iron Bowl against the run there, just showing his strength. So I think that's a really good comparison, similar body type. So for me, Anthony Tank Jones, number one player in 2026. All right, now a 1A for me is Zion Elee. He is ranked the number 3 overall player in the country, 5-star, number one player out of the state of Maryland, St. Francis Academy. We know him well. We know that school well by now. Again, an elite edge defender. The reason I'm kind of doing a 1A, in my opinion, we're probably going to have to get 2 edge defenders in this class. So if you could get one of the elite guys, and I see Anthony Tank Jones and Zion Elee as separators in this class, if you could get one of these 2 guys paired with somebody else, I think that would be a really good way to attack it in 2026. But this guy, I comped him to Derek Hall, but really I think he has a better pass rush move repertoire than Derek Hall did, especially coming out of Mississippi. But he wins with technique. He wins with pass rush moves. He wins with leverage. He slips inside, kind of a lot of times. He also, maybe he lacks that elite get off, that elite twitch, similar to like the D Fords, but again, Derek Hall comp, I think he's going to rack up a lot of sacks. I think he's going to come in ready to play with that high level of competition at St. Francis Academy out of Maryland. So my number 1A, you could say, Zion Elee. And here's kind of a quick bonus on Zion Elee. Under Armour All-American game, Keelan Russell, Jared Smith bringing the pressure from one side, and then Zion Elee cleaning it up there. That was just a little highlight that I remember seeing live that I figured that'd be relevant. So yeah, he's a baller. All right, number 2 on my list is going to be a linebacker out of Grayson in Georgia, Tyler Atkinson. Again, superstar, elite 5-star. He's 6'2", 205 listed, 6'2", 6'3 range. Really good length and frame. You can see the spy ability there. His pass coverage is really good. His spy ability, his run fit, obviously his pursuit and finishing is ridiculous. Great acceleration. Pretty much good at everything that I see. I don't see any weaknesses in his game. He will add some weight and add some mass and add some strength as he goes through that college program. My comps in my mind, Roquan Smith, maybe Nakobe Dean with more length, even like a Fred Warner type, because of his ability to play in space, take away the middle of the field, help in pass coverage, and obviously his ability to still fit the run as you see here and kind of be that quarterback spy. He can do it all. He's an elite player. It's going to be really tough to pull him from Georgia, out of the state of Georgia, but he's a top-notch kid. All right, my number 3 prospect on the defensive side of the ball is going to be Vonney Cleveland. He is out of Birmingham, Alabama, Parker High School. Here's his hopefully future teammate Jordan Crawford with him there as well. But you see the strength and the violent hands. He's 6'2.5", 305 pounds, as a junior in high school, obviously. Strength, power, block shedding, pursuit, the pedigree that, he's been a kid that people have known about for a while, transferring in from Prattville High School. Maybe he's not a pass rush specialist, of course. He's mainly a run stopper, but he has enough on the pass rush side as well for me to make him an elite prospect. He's a 4-star, number 5 player in the state right now. To me, you talk about guys who can really change a game and dominate from that kind of 0 nose to the 3 technique outside shoulder of the guard space in there. And he really excites me. He's the best prospect, really, that I remember looking at from Auburn's perspective. That was a guy like that, really, since Derek Brown. I'm not comparing him to Derek Brown necessarily, but he is, to me, he's dominant. He actually reminds me a lot of Dontavius Russell, who was Derek Brown's teammate during his time at Auburn. So that's my comp for him. Dontavius Russell, I think he has a little bit more upside, just kind of, 3-down player, that kind of thing, but really good run-stopping defender, a guy that can play a few positions on the interior defensive line, and just a really good player overall, Vonney Cleveland. All right, my number 4 player, another St. Francis Academy kid, Gyra Edwards, safety, 6'1", 200, 4-star, ranked number 37 nationally, so fringe 5-star kid, depending on how that moves and kind of shakes out. But, man, you can see it right there. He is a hitter. All right, super physical player. Here we are against Duncanville, Keelan Russell again. Maybe he lacks a little bit in pass coverage at the moment. He's super physical. He's a little bit handsy, but he can come up and he can tackle. And he's got a really good looking, football IQ as well. I comp him to a guy who we know well, Caleb Harris. Caleb Harris was a little bit underrated coming out of high school, right? So that's not necessarily the same. But in terms of positionally and how they play on the field, again, really physical, great tacklers, super physical. Caleb Harris was a freshman All-American, all right? So, a 4 or 5-star guy can definitely be, that same type of conversation. So Gyra Edwards for me, one of my favorite players, my favorite guy on the back end so far that we've looked at, and a guy that, obviously would do really well at Auburn, I think. All right, here we go. Anthony Davis, number 5, number 7 right here. High level of competition, right? Grayson High School, his teammate Tyler Atkinson, we've already seen. A little bit different of a player, all right? More of the weak side linebacker in this scheme. 6'1", 190 listed. But, man, he's a playmaker. And, I hesitate. I try not to comp every single kind of positionalist second-level defender to DeMarcus Riddick, okay? That's kind of easy to do when you see super athletic linebackers who are, making plays all over the field, but that is his comp to me. That's who he reminds me of the most. You think about what DeMarcus Riddick did a really good job of last year, the spatial plays, tracking things down, the quarterback spies, all that kind of stuff. I think this guy fits in that mold really well. Obviously not super thick for, a box linebacker, but the speed, the pursuit, and he's still a physical player. I really think highly of Anthony Davis here from Grayson High School, 4-star kid. And just a really good football player. All right, next we got another in-state kid, Zion Gibson out of Gadsden City High School, 4-star player, number 4 ranked player in the state of Alabama. You can see the get-off and the speed. They're playing some offense, but he's a cornerback committed to Alabama. He's 6'1", 174, all right? But with the length, 6'1", and with the speed, I saw some Nehemiah Pritchett kind of on, I would even say, on the low end of his trajectory, all the way up to maybe you think about like a Marlon Humphrey, somebody who has really good length and really good speed, especially for the position. You can kind of see the makeup speed there, but absolute burner. He can help in the return game, shows good physicality. You can see that here for the position. Cornerbacks, that's a pretty developmental position in general, right? So that's kind of the only really set of concerns or downside. You got to teach them how to turn their head and find the ball and do all those things, and different footwork and hand placement technique and all that kind of stuff, obviously, that comes with the position in general. But other than that, I think he's a pretty clean prospect. Again, a lot of speed and a guy I think that can make a lot of plays. So Zion Gibson there. All right, my number 7 player, Aiden Harris. He's a defensive lineman out of North Carolina. He's got a lot of length. I think he's actually really strong with his length as well. And that can be kind of challenging as an interior kind of defensive line prospect. You can see that 3 down front that we like to use, the 5 technique type alignment, disengage, track down a quarterback. You can see the long arms there, ripping the ball out. So I like a lot of what he's doing. He's listed 6'3", 240. I expect with his frame he would play closer to 280, 285. And I'm comping him to Keldrick Faulk, who kind of has that similar long build, more of that linear build as well. And so sometimes that can be susceptible to, trouble with double teams, things of that nature. So maybe that's the only couple of weaknesses. But you can see he's a great athlete, really explosive player, all right, on the interior defensive line there. So Keldrick Faulk's my comp. I think could be a really good player there. That's Aiden Harris. All right, number 8 on the top 10 list, we've got another interior defensive lineman, kind of a similar position, although slightly different build. Again, we're seeing a lot of Juju Lewis and Carrollton here on these defensive players highlights, but you can see the disruption in the backfield, the pursuit, all right, getting after the ball. He's built a little different, all right, so he's listed 6'1.5", 240 pounds. This is Bryce Perry-Wright, plays for Buford. I see Marlon Davidson, and sometimes you can get kind of tricked by the jersey number, so number 3 there, but I see Marlon Davidson. Marlon's a guy, he was a day 2 pick, all right, really high upside, played really well at Auburn, obviously very productive player. Again, played that even front outside defensive end at around 280 pounds, which I think is around where this guy's going to be when it all's said and done. He is a little bit on that smaller side of that 5 technique, odd front defensive end, so similar maybe to Amaris Williams-ish in his frame. But again, I think he'll fill out and be able to play there just fine. Super good pop, hand usage, twitch. Those are all his pluses. And then maybe just like that smaller frame and, maybe just a lack of elite traits. But you're talking about a guy who I think projects as, maybe somebody that could be a day 2 pick. So Bryce Perry-Wright, really good player and someone, that we definitely hope lands at Auburn. All right, number 9 on my list is a guy that if everything stays true in terms of rankings, he will be a 5-star kid. All right, there he is off the edge. Trenton Henderson, you can see just killing that poor quarterback. 6'4", 225 out of Pensacola Catholic in Florida. Again, he's going to be a 5-star, all right, if the rankings kind of remain status quo here. So you love that. You love the length. You love the bend. You can kind of see that, the long arms there again. Finishing. Again, not, for some of these buck targets, maybe not the elite twitch, the get-off that kind of catches your eye, but the pursuit and the length and all that kind of stuff obviously is there. So you like that. I'm comping him to Dylan Stewart, a guy who, absolutely exploded on the scene for South Carolina as a true freshman this year. I think their body types are similar, and even how they get after the quarterback is pretty similar as well. I like this kid a lot. Again, I do see Tank Jones and Zion Elee as more the tier above, setting themselves apart for the guys that we're going after in that position. But this guy, like I said, could be a 5-star player as well. So you'd love to see Auburn sign him. But Trenton Henderson, another good, buck prospect there for Auburn. All right, now I am cheating a little bit again. This is kind of my 9A, and this is Andrew Harris. So this is Aiden Harris's brother, Aiden, who we looked at a second ago as that 5-tech defensive end type guy. So the thing I'm kind of thinking here is like, well, if Auburn's heavily recruiting Aiden Harris as a defensive lineman, and they're heavily recruiting his brother as well as a buck edge target, where am I going to place him kind of in this ranking as well? I see him pretty similar with Trenton Henderson, all right, the buck target that we just got done looking at. So this is kind of, I'm kind of seeing if we're able to get both brothers, then maybe you're able to get Andrew Harris here with Hezekiah or somebody that we're already recruiting, or maybe we could get one of those elite guys as well. But I like this kid a lot. He really reminds me of Jeff Holland. Kind of that same frame. He's listed at 6'1", 210 right now, but of course he'll play at, 240 or so. But yeah, I think he's a little bit bigger than I anticipated, all right, with his listed height and weight and how he plays out here. I think he plays with some strength and plays with some pop. So I really like this kid as well. And again, that's Andrew Harris. All right, to round out my top 10 list, we've got a guy named Ernest Rankins, all right? And I actually want to rewind this real quick. So he's huge, all right? So we can see that, number 54, okay? He is listed at 6'5", 285, so he's going to play at, 310, 315 pounds plus. So he's a bigger, longer interior defensive lineman, true, nose to defensive tackle type guy. But if we look, he's got some explosiveness, some natural, just gifted ability that is not super common for guys of that size. So you think about Malik Autry from last year, had some similar traits, some similar abilities. Now, similar to Malik Autry, it's really not there every play with this kid. Okay, he's ranked a 4-star guy. Auburn's on him. I think Georgia's on him a little bit as well, but it's not there every play. So you're really taking this guy on his traits, the similar way that an NFL franchise may draft a guy on traits over production. But you can see the size. I'm sure our defensive line coach would love to get him in the building and mold him into something that could be a productive every down player. But man, he's got some unique traits, and it excites me as a prospect. So I like this guy a lot, Ernest Rankins. All right, so we've got to do some honorable mentions, some guys that I didn't mention, even some guys that are committed that are really highly rated prospects that didn't quite make my top 10 wish list. So the first honorable mention was a guy named Jordan Thomas. He came in for junior day. He's a corner out of New Jersey, but I actually comp him to Jay Crawford. They have similar builds, and he plays the position very patiently, I would say. He's a longer corner and a guy that's pretty physical as well. So Jordan Thomas, Shadarius Tootle, a 4-star linebacker currently committed, who I kind of see as a Mike linebacker, somewhere on the scale between like an Austin Keys and Rolando McClain, a long inside linebacker that's really heavy-footed as well. So I like him a lot. Jamichael Garrett, another linebacker out of the state of Alabama, 4-star guy. I comp to Trey Williams, really good player. Wayne Henry, St. Francis Academy, teammate of all those guys. He's a safety, undersized, 5'9". Buda Baker, right, is who his teammates kind of refer to him as. But I see DJ Swearinger as well, a guy who played at South Carolina and then played for the Texans and other teams. Hezekiah Harris, a 6'5" buck, edge target that's committed to Auburn, 4-star guy that I actually see similarly to that Jared Smith type frame and type build as well. So good player there. And then the last guy, Jaden Brodno, another junior day guy, 4-star, 6'3" corner, who looks on tape to me like a 4'5", 40 type guy. So there was a bunch of different names that I was thinking, but a guy named Roe Torrance, who actually came in from JUCO, played at Auburn, transferred to Arizona State, and I believe maybe was a later round draft pick as well. Somebody like that, but those super long corners are pretty unique, and I think he's got a pretty good skill set. So Jaden Brodno, definitely a guy to know as well. But guys, thank you for stopping by Tdub's Film Room, thebarnauburn.com. Don't forget, 25 off annual subscription for 2025. But until next time, I appreciate you guys watching.